Good afternoon or good morning. Welcome back to the sixth of a six-part series entitled STAR Center Talks Compensation Planning. So welcome back if this is not the first time that you have joined us, and if it is the first time in this series that you have been able to be on live, we welcome you back. I'm Suzanne Speer. I'm the Director of Workforce Development here at ACU, and we're just thrilled that you guys are back to join us today. So just a little bit of background for those of you who are joining us for the first time today. So we are here today talking, we are here from the ACU, the Association of Clinicians for the Underserved, and we are really workforce people. So we do a lot of different things, of which you can look at on our website, which is clinicians.org. But really at the heart of what we do, we're all about workforce. And so again, you can read more about what we do on our website, but we're here today because of a project that we have through the Bureau of Primary Health Care, an NCA, a National Cooperative Agreement called the STAR Center. And so that stands for Solutions, Training, and Assistance for Recruitment and Retention. Our website is chcworkforce.org. And if you hadn't had a chance to go there and look at all the resources that we have, we would definitely encourage you guys to do that. Not only are these webinar series archived here, I know they've been sent to you guys from each week, but they are also archived on our website. So take a look around in addition to listening to those webinars, and we have a lot of different tools and resources, so we hope you will check it out there. I always like to introduce the rest of the STAR Center team, even if you are familiar with the work that we do. We do like to get our contact information out there because we are here for you guys. This webinar is something that we do for you, and also we answer questions and get feedback on a regular basis. So rounding out the STAR Center team are Mariah Blake. She is our program manager, and she is also on the line today. So if you have any technical questions as we go along, she is going to be the one who is answering those in the questions box, or you can feel free to email her at mblake@clinicians.org, and she would be happy to get back to you and get you pointed in the right direction. Allison Abesecra is our VP of Training and Programs here at ACU, and she is not on the line today, but she is an integral part of our team, and I always like to mention her when we are on the line with anything STAR Center related. Excuse me. So just a few webinar housekeeping items today. As you guys know, we are recording this webinar. So if you've been around here for any length of time or this series, we do record our webinars, and they will be shared with you all at the end of today's broadcast. You can also find the handouts on the bottom little toolbar, your go-to toolbar on the right-hand side of your screen. You can download the slides, and they will be sent to you as well. And they can also be found with the recording on our website. Feel free to ask questions. So this is going to be somewhat of an interactive webinar. So get your polling fingers ready and your questions ready as well. We're going to have some time for you guys to share some of your thoughts and ideas, and also just ask questions. I know that this is a topic that people have a lot of questions on and a lot of thoughts around, so feel free to ask questions as we go along. I will pause at a few times during our time together today, also as well as the end. And whether or not you have just had lunch or you're just grabbing your morning coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy, and we are going to have some fun talking about compensation. So as we think back to the other 5 webinars in this series, I just want to take us back to take a look at all of the places that we've been and sort of where we're going today before we dive right in. So the first webinar in this series was talking about the finances of recruitment and retention, how expensive it is, where you are going to, how you can get the money, where you can get the money, and how to best spend it when you're talking about recruitment and retention. So even though people don't think about financing recruitment and retention as a part of your compensation program, it is definitely directly related. And so that's really a great one that, if you haven't had a chance, definitely check that out, because thinking about that is an important part of your overall compensation program, not just straight salary of what you're paying folks. Week 2, I spoke about communicating your compensation program. So this is another vital part of your overall compensation program, is actually talking about it to the people that you're compensating. So this is talking to your staff about your overall compensation program, how often you should be doing it, why you should be doing it, and some ideas for how you should be doing it there. Week 3, midway through, we talked about health center compensation and retention philosophy. So this was really focused on the overall compensation philosophy. So really having a thought process to your overall compensation plan and your compensation philosophy, as well as really how retention plays into and is a part of your compensation program. So how is retention affected by your overall compensation philosophy? We then went on to incentive compensation design and really designing an incentive compensation program. And then last week, we looked at current practice of compensation and also some future trends. So with that webinar, we dove into all of the different models of compensation. So she talked about straight salary, which is, no incentive compensation, production-based salaries, salaries reduced by withholding. And I know that was a little bit tricky, but I think she did a great job of talking about that and introducing it as an option, as well as salary plus bonus. So just wanted to take back and take a look at where we were before we went forward today. And as we go through our time together today, so obviously we have already discussed and reviewed what we have talked about in this series so far. And then we are going to talk a little bit about involving your board of directors as part of your compensation program and involving them and developing an overall compensation philosophy there. We're also going to discuss the role of benefits as a part of your compensation program. So we've talked a ton about how you're going to get the money, how this is going to be a recruitment and retention tool, and how the different ways that you can structure your salaries and also incentive programs. But we're going to dive into a little bit about benefits. So, and I want to give you a little bit of a fair warning. This is going to be some of the interactive piece. So get your thinking caps on as far as your benefits program at your health center. We're also going to be previewing the STAR Center compensation self-assessment tool that is going to be rolling out later this month. So an exciting action-packed time with us today in the last 50 or so minutes that we're together. So sit back again and let's get ready to dive into all things compensation and wrap up our time talking about compensation in this series. So as we get started today, as mentioned, we're going to be talking about the board of directors' role in compensation. And this is something that a lot of folks talk about and think about, but may not have a really firm grip on. So we're going to do a little dive in this. But before we do and chat a little bit about the board of directors and what their role is, we have a poll question. So Mariah is going to pull up our first poll question, and she is going to open it here. So we're going to be talking about or asking, when was the last time you reviewed your compensation program with the board of directors? So was it A, within the last 6 months, B, within the last year, C, within the last 2 to 3 years, or D, I'm not sure? No wrong answers there. Just wanted to get a feel about what you all are already doing. Mariah is going to leave that open for just for a second so you guys can go ahead and answer that and let everyone else know what's going on at your health center there. All right. And she's closed that poll, and let me see if I can see this, okay, here we go. Okay, so 6% said A within the last 6 months, 29% said within the last year, 12% said within the last 2 to 3 years, and 53% said I'm not sure. And for those of you who answered D, whether or not it is because you are not directly involved with things that have to do with your board, or the fact that it's just been so long that you just don't recall, take a second and ask either your leadership or find out when the last time that was, because that can definitely be something that you want to do and just have an idea of going forward. And for those of you who know, that's great. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the ideal time frame is to be involving the board about your compensation program. So there are a lot of questions when it comes to involving board approval and board involvement when it comes to compensation. A lot of questions, who, what, when, where, how. There are a lot of things that you can ask when it comes to this, just with anything. So when it comes to the how, which is that top question there, so how are you going to get them involved in the conversation about compensation? So this is something that you can just bring up at a meeting. You all should be meeting with your board of directors, or your board of directors should be meeting once a month, as is in your the requirements of your health center. And so this is something that can be brought up either as much as you need it to be, but as part of getting these folks together, make sure you bring it up. Bring it up and talk about it, whether or not it's specifics or your overall compensation philosophy. Go ahead and bring that up and chat about it with your board of directors. Another thing you could do is, get some insight one-on-one. If there's somebody that you know, before you have a conversation with your overall entire board, if one member of your board has particular strong knowledge about compensation, if it's something that's in their background, ask them to lead the conversation. Use your insider knowledge about, and I don't mean that I mean that in a completely up and up way. There's a lot of talents that your board has, and bring them to the forefront. If compensation is something that they have dealt with, if they're in some sort of leadership role in a business, no matter what it is, whether it's healthcare or not, involve them. Get them involved and have them lead the conversation, and really use the talents and the knowledge of the folks that are in your board to lead that conversation. Another question we can ask is, why involve your board of directors in your compensation conversation, whether or not it's actually getting their approval per se about the overall compensation program or that overall compensation philosophy, as I talked about a little bit earlier. And so you really, first of all, it's a best practice. So this is something that, really just take some time to do this. Your board should know about what's going on when it comes to compensation at your health center, and so involving them is really a best practice. Second thing is involving them in a conversation about compensation. I'm having a hard time getting that out. The compensation conversation is definitely a tongue twister. But anyway, having that conversation on a regular basis during those meetings, again, whether it's once a year or whenever it is, it's going to minimize the conflict between board and management, because they will know what is going on with your compensation program. Your overall compensation philosophy can act as a guide to the guide and a blueprint for what you're doing on a day-to-day basis at your health center. So, taking a look at this, it really is just a good idea. And, other than being a best practice and being able to act as something that can be a guide, it really will minimize conflict between the board and management. Overall, there is only one employee of the board, if you will, and that is the executive director or the CEO. But really, they should know what's going on at your health center, even from leadership all the way down to support staff and everything like that. So just take some time to involve them in the compensation conversation, and I know you guys will be glad you did. So thinking about how often your board should review that compensation structure, as I mentioned, this is something that you can bring up on a regular basis during your board of directors regular meetings. And so ideally, your board of directors and leadership should be taking a look at the compensation plan every 2 to 3 years. This is definitely a big undertaking, and it's not always feasible to do it at the very beginning when you're involving this. So for those of you who said that, for the 53% of you who said that you didn't know when the last time your board of directors met and talked about compensation, this is something that you want to start. So if you do some digging and you find out that you haven't done anything in regards to talking about compensation in the last, say, 5 years, make sure that you're bringing it up every 2 to 3 years. That is a good place to start. So every other year, every 2 to 3 years, just put it on the docket. And then once this is something that is on the agenda on a regular basis. And when I say regular basis, obviously we're not talking about every month. So that, again, A, they know what's going on, and B, they can get used to talking about it. And the ideas get flowing, and once it's in the regular basis and they know what's going on, then you can start to do it annually. So once they are used to, if you will, or, it's something that they know is going to come up on a regular basis, again, start to get it in there annually. Start with every year, every other year, or every 2 years or 3 years, but then gradually increase it to be annually. They'll come to expect it. They'll come to look forward to the conversations. And frankly, if it's something that they know it's coming, then really you can generate some ideas about your overall compensation philosophy and how you can actually, have some innovative ideas about your compensation philosophy. And it'll really take some of that pressure and some of that, perhaps even that tension that is there with them not knowing what's going on with your compensation philosophy and your compensation program. Now, that is an extreme. Most of the time there's not going to be tension when it comes to your board, but just keep that in mind, that the more you talk about it, the more they're going to be comfortable with it, and the more they can be involved in the conversation and take some of the pressure off of leadership to do that. So as we transition a little bit, we're going to be talking about benefits. And so as I mentioned, at the beginning of our time here today, I said for you guys to put your thinking cap on. So I want you guys to put your thinking cap on, especially when it comes to your benefits. So as we dive into this particular topic, I'm going to ask you guys another poll question. So poll question number 2 is, as Mariah launches this poll, what role do benefits play in your overall compensation program? Do they A, play an equal role in your compensation program? So salary is equal to your benefits. And when I say an equal role, I don't mean that they are distributed equally, like the amount of your benefits doesn't necessarily have to equal the salary that they bring home in their paycheck, but do you place an equal amount of emphasis on benefits as well as salary? B, we think about our benefits, but concentrate more on compensation. C, we work very hard to have robust benefits, and our benefits really outshine our compensation program. Or D, I'm not sure really. So think about that. Think about the emphasis that you put on either your salary, your benefits, or both, and what emphasis you put on it. Again, not necessarily the dollar amount. We're not talking about the dollar amount here. We're talking about what you emphasize, your energies, things like that. Okay, and Mariah's going to leave that open just for another second here. And again, there's no wrong answer. So thank you, Mariah. She's just closed the poll. And I'm going to read out the answers. So 25% of you say that you place equal measure on both your salary and benefits. Just 6% say that you think about your benefits but concentrate more on your compensation program. C was 56%. So a lot of you, the majority of you, work very hard to have robust benefits and emphasize that more than your salaries. And 13% said, I'm not sure really. So this is actually, thank you guys for weighing in. I really appreciate it. So this comes honestly as not really a big surprise. I know that as community health centers, we generally, when I say we, I mean health centers in general, we find ourselves sometimes scrambling on the salary side. And so this is why talking about compensation is so important, and why so many of you have tuned in week after week to hear folks talk about all the different structures of compensation and why compensation plays such a big role. So thinking about that, and the majority of the folks that answered today talking about benefits, it really is something that people at community health centers think about a lot. And so again, thank you for weighing in, and appreciate you guys highlighting all of your different answers there today. So, and you know, it really is a sort of a teeter-totter. You know, salary, benefits, sometimes you feel like your salary is really heavy, and then other times you're feeling like your benefits are, you know, really coming up there, and really you're just playing this sort of it's not a game, that's not the right word for it, but really you're just trying to find a really good balance between the two. And so think about your benefits when you're thinking about your compensation. And I know that we have really focused specifically on incentive compensation and all those things, and those are definitely should be a role, but think about your benefits. For those of you who, you know, the very small percentage of you who are on the call today and really aren't that focused, think about how you might even it out a little bit, and how your benefits might play a little bit larger of a role in your overall compensation program. And not that there's anything wrong with not thinking about your benefits a lot, but it really is going to enhance any salaries that you're providing to your, not only your the clinical providers and your provider staff, but also all of your staff at your health center there. So when we think about benefits, really we're talking about all these different things. We're not only talking about traditional things such as, you know, paid time off, insurance, different holidays. That's, you know, people can have that, either some folks include that in your paid time off, and sometimes folks bring that out as something separate. Your retirement plan. So, and this could be whether or not you're contributing to it. A lot of folks just have it, even if they're not contributing to it. Any education or career path, loan repayment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these are things that go beyond benefits. So this is anything that is not just straight salary. So, and as we think about all of these benefits, we're going to talk today about these particular things. Again, there are a ton of things when it comes to benefits, but the things that we're going to talk about today involve work-life balance, the things that you can be doing financially that go beyond salary to assist your staff, and also talking about career path there. So first up, work-life balance, flexible hours. This is something that when I started, so my background is, before I started with ACU and be involved in the work here, I came from a PCA and I worked directly with health centers. And this is something that 6 years ago or 7 years ago when I started was just a whisper. But now it's practically in bold flashing lights. And folks are really expecting this. So if flexible hours and flexible scheduling are not a part of what you were doing at your health center, I would strongly encourage you to take a look at it. This could involve several things. So it could involve doing a job sharing where you have 2 people making up an FTE or 3 people making up an FTE. You could have someone that works a full FTE but does 4 10-hour days versus a traditional 5-day-a-week work week. This could also be looking at just offering part-time schedules. And this goes either whether or not it is for your providers or it could be for any staff. So think about that and how you can offer flexible hours, flexible scheduling to enhance your work-life balance there. This goes beyond just folks who are maybe, it really spans all generations. All generations are really looking at this. So this is something that if you're not already doing it, please take a look at it. And I think that you'll really find that not only will it be a great benefit and a retention tool as a part of your overall compensation package, but it will also be a great recruitment tool as well. So some other benefits that can support work-life balance. So limited call. A lot of health centers have phone triage, they could have a nurse line, things like that. So anything that you can do to limit their call and limit their on-cue time and their on-call time is really going to go a long way for especially your provider staff. Obviously, your support staff is not going to be on call necessarily, but think about how you can limit the call when it comes to your provider staff. Something else something that you may or may not think about when it comes to work-life balance, think about offering childcare benefits or even just partnering with a local childcare program to either offer a discount or just have a list of childcare places that are available or a place where they can go to find out about childcares in your area. So this is something that may not cost you anything if you're just providing a reference, and it wouldn't be that you're recommending a place, but that you are just referring them to say, these are the places that provide childcare in our area. So think about things as when it comes to work-life balance. This is something that is becoming, again, as I said, increasingly important to the folks that you are going to be both recruiting and retaining at your health centers. So think about how you can enhance your overall work-life balance of your providers as a part of your compensation program. When we talk about finances, this is not necessarily talking about your straight salary. So there are a lot of other things and a lot of other financial benefits that you can offer your health center staff that go beyond that paycheck, but are still in that sort of financial arena. So a lot of health centers offer financial planning assistance services to their staff. So this could, in most cases that we have had experience with, this is, again, another contract or referral that they have for either a financial planner who talks to their staff about their overall finances and how they can best use the finances and how they can be the best stewards of the paychecks that they bring home every month. But also, it can also be something such as a special mortgage for folks that are just coming out of school and are new providers. And so anything that when it comes to financial planning and financial assistance that the health center staff, that your HR staff is not necessarily working on or looking at as far as their time, but just a referral. So having those referrals can really be priceless. And when people look at the list of all the benefits that you are providing them, it really can enhance the way people feel about what you are doing for them as employees. Another thing I wanted to mention here is transportation. So if you're in an urban area, this could be something that if a lot of folks take public transportation, do you offer them a monthly stipend for their Metro Pass? And if they are doing a long commute and you're in a very rural area and they're doing a daily or a weekly commute in to your area, think about what you can do to provide either a stipend or an overall salary increase when it comes to their transportation costs, because a lot of times this is really a factor for people, especially so not only either rural or urban areas, but there are also areas around the country that have very high cost of living. And so their health center staff come from outside of their direct area. So think about transportation too. If it's something that you know is an issue, but you don't currently have anything, think about how you might enhance your benefits when it comes to transportation. The last area we're going to talk about when it comes to benefits is the career path. So what is first of all, do you have a career path for your health center employees? And B, if you do, what does it look like? And then if you do have one, if you don't have one, really think about what you can do to start having career paths for employees. This could be everything from a provider to a clinical support staff to an administrative support staff, really any level of staff. This is something that can be vital when it comes to your benefits. And this is not necessarily something that is a tangible benefit per se, that it's not something that, not a line that, not a number that they can call for assistance when it comes to, for any number of things like an employee assistance program or a benefit that they can access for their health insurance or paid time off, but it really is a benefit. So think about having a career path as a benefit. So again, for all of your staff, what does a career path look like at your health center? How can they start at your health center at one job, and in 10 years, what can they do at the time of your health center? So one thing I heard not too long ago was somebody talking about dental assistants and what they could do to improve or have a career path for their dental assistants. And so really having a path for their dental assistants to go to school and get their education and become dental hygienists is a great example of a career path. So it's very specific when it comes to that particular role, but laying out how they could get their education to then become a dental hygienist, to be able to have a new role and responsibility within your health center, but how you could assist them along that career path. So whether you're just offering recommendations and letting them know about programs in your area, or tuition assistance, offering them flexible schedules in order for them to take that next level in their career, or all of the above. So think about what is financially feasible when you're talking about your overall compensation program, and really think about how you can create these pathways. You follow the yellow brick road to the next place in your career that they want to have. And this is something that, again, really can transcend all of the generations in the workforce here. So it could be somebody that is brand new in the workforce, and it could be somebody that has been in the workforce for a while, but they're really hungry and they really want to further their career. Your health center might be the perfect place to do that. So think about it when it comes to career path and what you might offer your health center staff as a benefit there. So when it comes to benefits, this is something else you want to review annually. And I'm sure that you're sensing really a theme when it comes to all the things that you should be doing on an annual basis, and this is one of them. So take some time to look at your benefits annually, review them with your health center leadership if you are HR staff, and also this is something that you could be asking if you have an annual survey of your health center staff. This could be something that you could ask on an annual basis of them too, because it's always great to get input about what they want and what is going to be relevant to them. And I've highlighted that on the slide because you could have, let's say you could have 100 benefits, but 10 are only relevant to your health center staff. So you don't want to spend time and energy and also money in a lot of cases on benefits that are not relevant to your health center staff and they're also not using. So we talked about communication in a previous webinar, but this is also something that you want to make sure that you're communicating to your staff is the benefits as well, because a benefit might be relevant, but they might not know about it. So just make sure that you're communicating about that on a regular basis as well. Last thing I want to mention when we're talking about benefits, think about all of the generations of staff when it comes to all of the benefits and how relevant they are within those different generations. So I heard recently, and it makes sense, right? But I heard that there was 4 generations. Someone pointed out that there were 4 generations in the workforce today. So there are baby boomers, there are Gen X, there are millennials, and Gen Y. That is a huge range of folks that are potentially working at your health center, a huge range of things that are important to them. And so ensure that you are looping them in on a regular basis, your health center staff, and on a formal and both an informal basis, and making sure that the benefits that you have are relevant to them. Now, a lot of times, things that are relevant to one group of your staff are not going to be relevant to another. But just think about how you can make your benefits relative across the board. We can't always please everyone. We always know that, whether it's in anything that we do, we can't please everybody. But think about how you can include all the different people that you have in your workforce at your health center. So as I mentioned before, I wanted you guys to get your thinking cap on. And so I would love for you guys to put something in the questions box about think about all the different things that you have as far as benefits. And sometimes we're thinking outside of the box on these, and sometimes they are something that is pretty standard. But as we think about all the benefits, I would love to get your feedback and hear from you guys. And it can be now, or it can be as we go along and as we finish the last time we're together. But what are some of the best and most well-received benefits that you have in your overall compensation program? These could be something that you've added recently, or just something that you have had on your books and is a part of your compensation, as part of your overall benefits package for a long time. So this is something that a lot of times we get our best ideas from sharing. And so if you have those, I would love to hear from you guys, because I think that you guys would also receive them as well. So thank you for the person that put in the questions box, matching 401k, and also loan repayment for providers. Those are 2 excellent ones. Matching 401k can be great. This transcends, and again, a lot of times when we're talking about 401k, it's sort of the middle age range that is thinking about how they're doing and preparing for retirement. But really, this can transcend all ages that are in your workforce, and also loan repayment as well. Absolutely. Loan repayment, if you can do it, if you can find it in your budget and are able to partner with, say the state loan repayment program or any other loan repayment programs there that you can find out about, it's really beneficial too. A couple other folks have put in here today a retirement plan with a 4% match, and having different healthcare options with buy-up options for higher care. Great point. I love that. The different healthcare options. So again, we're talking about the different generations. So having some different options, and also, buy up or so if you have basic coverage, but you want to do something that's a little bit higher, that might be important to folks who have families or people that, you know, in their families that they're taking care of or that have higher medical needs, that's great. An HRA for reduced copay and deductibles. Awesome, great. Again, having to do with health insurance and healthcare, but all of those different options when it comes to healthcare is so great and so important. And catering to all the different levels of the generations and workforce is fantastic. Oh, great. So another person here puts paying health, dental, and vision insurance at 100% for the employee only. Fantastic benefit. I'm sure that is an amazing recruitment and also retention tool. Pet insurance has also gone over really well. That's another interesting one. Pet insurance, who would have thought? But, you know, again, a lot of times pets are our family, and so it's something that it kind of seems out of the box, but can be a really important benefit that really transcends all generations. And so great. Thank you so much for mentioning that as well. Some other things that we have in the box here, questions box, 32-hour work week for physicians, a sign-on bonus for providers, great, relocation up to $5,000 for providers. All of those are awesome. Sign-on bonuses and any relocation bonuses are a fantastic recruitment tool. And they can also go a long way to really setting the stage for a good retention as well, really making them feel like you're invested and caring about what they're doing. HMO and PPO options. Oh, an employee that does not need health coverage is added $50 to every paycheck. So if they're opting out of their health coverage, they get $50 added to a paycheck. That is a great incentive. So if they have a significant other or spouse that they are able to be on their insurance with and they don't need it, they get $50 back in their paycheck. That is amazing. Thank you guys all for sharing. I know that I always learn from this. I'm the one for a reimbursement for not taking advantage of the health insurance and pet insurance are two new things that I've learned today. So I hope you guys did as well, and really do appreciate you guys sharing and having a little interactive portion of our webinar today. Okay, so our last poll question as we transition to the last portion of our time together today is, when was the last time your leadership analyzed the structure of your overall compensation program? So now, again, this is leadership, not board of directors, but your leadership. So this will be your C-suite and also your HR staff. So was it A, within the last 6 months? B, within the last year, C, within the last 2 years, or D, I'm not sure. So again, no wrong answers. Go ahead and put in your response there. We're still collecting responses, and we're going to leave it open for about another 30 or 40 seconds and put it in there, and then we will close it in just a second, and then we'll chat about it and move forward. Okay. So 12% said within the last 6 months. That's great. I know that that is not a majority on this call, but that's fantastic that 12% have been talking with your leadership over the last 6 months. And that might just be because it's when it happened, but still great. 29% within the last year, 24% within the last 2 years, and then 35% say they're not sure. So again, I know there are probably a lot of you on this call and answer in that 35% of I'm not sure, because either you're not directly involved in the compensation, talking about that and designing it, or you just don't know, and that's okay. So, so thank you guys for answering that. That gives me a great idea about where you all are and where we can chat about next, which is to preview of our overall preview of our upcoming self-assessment tool. And so if you have spent any time with ACU, the STAR Center at ACU, you know that on our website, we have a ton of tools and resources. And included with those tools are several self-assessment tools. So we have a recruitment and retention self-assessment tool, we have a burnout self-assessment tool, and upcoming within the next month, so by the end of June, we are going to be releasing a compensation self-assessment. And this self-assessment is going to be designed to assess the overall compensation structure of your compensation program. So we've talked a lot on this webinar series about different different ways that you could do compensation, so straight salary, incentive compensation, all of those different types. But really, this tool is for you to take a look at the structure of your overall compensation program. So that's why I ended up asking a poll question about when was the last time you evaluated your overall compensation structure. So if you haven't done that recently, or it's been a while, this is a great place to start. Whether it's you that take this self-assessment or you send it on to your leadership, it's really a great place to start to take a look at the structure of your overall compensation program. So this tool is designed to assess that overall compensation structure. It is then going to give you feedback and also recommendations for next steps. So not only is it a time to be reflective, but then it is going to be able to give you some recommendations and figure out where you go from here. So our tools are a great starting off point and a great way to really get some ideas of where do I go next. A lot of times when it comes to these big bucket items at your health center, people scratch their head and they're just like, I just really don't know where to start. And so sometimes it's almost paralyzing. So these self-assessment tools are a great place to start with that. So when we take a look at the overall compensation structure, what do we mean by that? So this self-assessment tool is going to measure these 7 different structures, these 7 different elements of their compensation structure. So governance, job descriptions, pay structure, internal equity, that's a really important one, market, performance appraisals, and also pay increases. So that's something that you want to think about. And again, I'm sure you're thinking about, well, gosh, I didn't realize that all of that should be a part of our compensation structure. Well, if you didn't realize that, that's absolutely okay. But another reason to go ahead and take this self-assessment tool when we roll it out later this month. So these next couple slides, we're just going to take you through and give you a little more details about the self-assessment tool itself, and then give you a preview of what it's going to look like. I don't want you to click too hard because these are some screenshots of that were a little bit ago that were in the development of the tool. So some of this is still in Latin. And so it will look a little bit, the verbiage on here will look a little bit different when you all take this compensation self-assessment tool. So again, it's going to be like our other tools. It's going to be a web-based tool. And some of our resources are downloadable files, but this is going to live on our website. You don't have to have a login to access it. It's just going to be straight on our website. So it's going to be a link and it's going to be followed, and you can go ahead and follow it and take the self-assessment online. The tool is going to be between 12 and 23 questions. Now you might be scratching your head and saying, Suzanne, well gosh, don't you know how many questions it is? Yes, so at minimum, it's gonna be 12 questions. And then based on your answers, it could be up to 23 questions. So having said that, this is gonna take a varied amount of time to complete, but should be fairly short, with between 15 to 30 minutes to complete. So not a lot of time investment, but a great return on your investment because you're really gonna get some great tips once you complete this tool. And you're going to get some tips in a personalized report based on your input. So again, you could take it once now, and then you could come back 2 years later and you could see how the grade, if you will, of your of your compensation structure has changed and where you might need to take some time to concentrate your efforts when it comes to your overall compensation program. And so this is just an example of what the questions look like. And again, some of this is still in Latin, so it will look a little bit different, but this is what we mean by the yes or no type questions. So do you have a formal, written, board-approved compensation philosophy? So if you answered yes, these would come up. If you answered no, then you would go on to the next question. So again, it depends on how you answer, on how long it's going to be. But anyway, you guys get the idea that it is, how long it takes depends on what your answers are. And then once you get to the very end of the tool and you've answered all the questions, you're going to get sort of, I don't want to say a report card, but you're going to get a report that tells you how you're doing. So it's going to give you a colored coded for each different segment and each different part of the overall structure of your compensation program and your compensation philosophy. Here, you're going to take a look and you're going to see all the different outputs. So if you have a low score, it means that you need to concentrate some more efforts on that particular part of the structure. And then if you have a high score, it's going to mean that you're really doing well on that. And that's something that to say, you probably should be concentrating your efforts elsewhere because you're doing a great job there. So again, great tool. It's going to be, we're really excited about it. You all are going to be able to, again, take this as many times as you want. It's anonymous, so we will not share your answers with anyone. And we encourage you to take it as often as possible and to really get some great ideas and some tools for next steps when it comes to developing your overall compensation program there. So where do you go from here? So once it comes out, we will be sending a link to everyone, and it's definitely going to be in our next our next newsletter that comes out if you're signed up for our newsletter at chcworkforce.org. And if you're not, please go there and do that. But we also will be releasing the link when it comes available, so stay tuned for that. So go ahead and take that self-assessment tool and see how you're ranking there and where you need to concentrate some of the efforts on your structure. Also, wanted to mention here, we do a lot of things on a national level, but contact your state PCA. They are an invaluable resource and also one of our valued partners when it comes to compensation. A lot of states do, as you may know, have a compensation and benefits survey, whether it's annually or semi-annually. And if you have one, reach out to your PCAs and see, what you can be doing to enhance your compensation program from a state perspective, and then also use that compensation, take that compensation and benefits survey so that you can see how everyone, what other folks are doing in your state, because that certainly, even though, you want to be able to ensure that you're keeping up with the other folks in your state. And then also stay tuned to the STAR Center for resources there. And again, make sure that you are checking your emails for our newsletter. And if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, please do so. So with that, we've come to the end of all of the things that we had for you today, but I am going to take some questions. I'm going to open up my little questions box. And as I'm doing that, and so the question here is, do we have samples of compensation philosophy templates? So we are working on that, and when we have those, if we can pull those together, we'll certainly send them out. And if you will send me an email at info@chcworkforce.org, I would be happy to send that out to you. I know that's something that is important, so I will definitely get some of those together and send it out to you. Anyone else have any questions? We'll leave questions open for just a minute, as we have about 5 more minutes on the line today. But I really appreciate you guys having taken the time to be with us on not only on this session today, but on the rest of our series. And again, if you missed something, you can go back and see the archives on our website, not only the archive of the webinar per se, the recording, but also the on the slides as well. So thank you again for your time and attention. We appreciate all you guys sticking with us throughout this series, and hope you all found it valuable. And we look forward to sharing our self-assessment tool that's going to be coming up, and our ongoing conversation when it comes to compensation here at the STAR Center. So again, thank you guys, and have a great afternoon and a great summer.